Welcome to the CCIR Student Research Spotlight Series. I'm your host, Jasmine Tien, and it is my pleasure to welcome to today's episode Niyati Ravi, a 10th grade student at the Dublin High School in California in the USA. During her time with CCIR, Niyati worked with Dr. David Bellin of the University of Cambridge, researching the neuroscience behind motivation. Her final project is titled The Relationship Between Eating Behaviour and Anxiety in Women. Niyati is here today to share with us a little bit about her exciting project, what it was like working with Dr. Bellin and CCIR, and to share any tips and advice she has for students who might want to join this exciting program in the future. Niyati, welcome to the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm very, very excited to talk to you. So let's jump straight in. And I'm curious to hear about what interested you towards this course in particular. Why was this an area of study you wanted to look into?
Neuroscience, in general, has been a key interest of mine ever since I've learned about it in like middle school or something like that. And when I found out that it was something as niche and like something that like it's not really researched upon like motivation,
Mm-hmm.
it really got me interested to know more. And after being in this course, I really want to like delve into this topic even further.
Mm. Yeah, and I'm very curious about your final project. I mean, eating behavior and anxiety among women, that is such a fascinating area of research. Can you tell us about why you decided to go down this route?
So eating behavior was one of the larger topics that we went over during the course with Dr. Bellin. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that since I am more knowledgeable due to the lectures in the course, I
Uh-huh.
could talk more about that. And anxiety, since I know, like even myself as I've experienced anxiety and like women haven't really been researched upon as
Mm,
much as men
mm.
due to like even in mental health or physiological conditions. So I thought I could combine all of these together to like make my own project.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely incredible. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. You know, as a woman myself, I have diagnosed generalized anxiety. I have also had a history of eating disorders, which is why I'm just absolutely buzzing to talk to you about this project. So tell us a bit more about it. What was your process of researching for this topic?
So I thought that if you can't really like put all women under one bubble since there's
Mm,
different
of
like
course.
kinds of like factors going in. So I
Yeah.
chose three different demographics. I chose eating behavior and anxiety with pregnant women,
Mm-hmm.
adolescents, so people around my age, and just adults who are in their mid 20s or early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing the different effects. I was researching a bunch of like different studies that I found online and trying to combine them all into one paper and analyzing the results.
Yeah, let's back up just a tiny bit. For those in the audience who might be listening to us right now and thinking, "Oh, I'm not super sure what she means by eating behavior," could you explain what you mean by that?
Oh yeah. So eating behavior, it just means like uh how much or how well one eats.
Mm-hmm.
It's like more about it can be associated with eating disorders sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
In my research project, there were some studies that talked about eating disorders, but there were also some studies talking about like um, um, normal. And I also did a section in my research project talking about the effects of COVID-19.
Mm,
And
mm.
there it was talking how women found it easier for them to eat since they had more time on their hands. So eating behavior can change due to the external factors or internal factors.
Yeah, so I just wanted to pick up a little bit on what you were saying about having these three key demographics that you were looking at. So you had adolescent girls,
Mhm.
pregnant women, and adult women in their 20s and 30s. Could you share with us some of the findings? that you came across that really stood out to you between these three demographics?
For me, one of the main things that stood out to me is when it came to children or adolescent women, a lot of the effects or that causes anxiety and furthermore eating disorders or just rapid changes in eating behavior
Mm.
was their like for example outside things like social media, friendships, or just school.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
those can internally affect oneself and change their lives and their uh, eating.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, really, because I remember when I was a teenager and just being absolutely bombarded by the expectations of peers and also social media. So, talk to us a little bit about that. Was there one overriding factor that would really affect the eating behavior among adolescent girls?
There's definitely not one factor because each person is different, and obviously, that just you can't really put everyone into one single bubble because then you'll like miss out the outliers. So,
Yeah,
but like what I've seen with all like the studies and my research, um, anxiety increased due to like more external factors rather than what's inside themselves, or these external factors like social media and friendships can uh change how they think themselves and
yeah,
affect
yeah,
eating behavior and their
yeah.
anxiety.
And you're so impressionable around that age bracket as well. It
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot of sense. Talk to us a bit about what you found for adult women, whether it's women who are pregnant versus women who are not. What were your findings among those
So
demographics?
for um pregnant women, I found that like sometimes their anxiety can be influenced by um just like outside things, but also inside like themselves since their hormonal um
Mm,
like changes are like
mm,
so rapid from day to day. It
mm.
can cause like depression sometimes and like um really bad anxiety, and this all can just affect themselves as humans.
Yeah, and what about women who are not pregnant?
For women who are not pregnant, it's a much wider scale of effects.
Mm,
Um, since there isn't really one thing that isn't like for pregnant women, obviously they're carrying a child, so it makes sense as to why there can be changes among them.
yeah,
But for adult women, um, they it kind of just I wouldn't say it just happens. It was just like it just how their lives progress. It
mm,
can or how like they eat. It's like the different changes among one's life as a woman can
yeah.
like affect their eating behavior and like their anxiety.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, stress levels, um, and just work related stress, maybe family related stress. I can imagine there being quite a lot of different factors. And, I wouldn't be surprised if, again, as we were talking about when it comes to adolescent women, social media also being a factor and beauty standards and things like that as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, um, when doing this research, I remember when I used to do research projects, there would often be something that I would go, "Oh my gosh, I would love to research that further if I had the time, but I just don't right now." Was there anything for you in particular during your research project that if you had the chance to revisit it or explore further, you would want to do that?
So I believe I said this earlier, but one of my section of my project was talking about the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes.
And that was a smaller section or smaller area of study for me in this entire project. But I would love to like uh know more about it or like use like a public database and see
Yeah.
how that um really just affected not just women or just people entirely.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I mean, I want to pick up on that a little bit because I think it's so pertinent right now. I mean, we are still sort of crawling our way out of the
Mhm.
pandemic at the moment, you know. I think we try to believe that the pandemic is sort of over, but it's not really. There's still people getting affected by COVID every day. So I'm interested to hear more about what you found the effects of COVID is on women's eating behavior and their anxiety.
So, what I found in one of the studies, I remember that women, even though they had very anxious thoughts, of course, when being isolated and all that, and some of them may already be diagnosed with anxiety, I found that their eating behaviors have gotten like better or like did not change at all. And when I mean better, it means like they've been eating healthier or they've been eating consistently 3 times a day, which is like the normal like recommended amount. And
Yeah.
it's shown, I remember, I think it was in like Madrid University, I believe. Uh, a student survey showed that women had healthier diets than men over the lockdown.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
Do we have ideas of why that is?
One of the main reasons was that uh, since like men obviously they did well, not sorry, not men. Women, they more like cared more about themselves since they're more isolated. They're really like going out meeting people. So
Yeah.
obviously internally they would try to like make better or uh make better changes for themselves.
Yeah, I mean that kind of reminds me of how learning new hobbies became a real trend during COVID lockdowns.
Yes.
Everyone was
Yeah.
picking up new hobbies. Everyone was trying wellness um, practices, doing yoga,
Yeah.
meditation, things like that. Yeah, it's really interesting how COVID sort of pushed us to think a bit more about ourselves, our bodies, our health. That is absolutely fascinating.
Mhm.
And I think it's fascinating as well. You said that there's this difference between men and women, that women actually started eating healthier
Yeah.
compared to men. That is
Mhm.
absolutely fascinating. I mean, I'm just absolutely speculating here, but I wonder whether it was also because there was, for some people, I know it's not the case for everybody, but for some people, there was a bit more time to do things like plan healthy meals and
Yeah, I
cook.
obviously agree with that because since work, you don't have to commute every day during that
Yeah.
time. You obviously had more time to yourself. And especially for people who were living alone at the time,
Mm,
they don't really have to take care of anyone else.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. So let's circle back to talking about CCIR more specifically. You worked with Dr. David Bellin. What was
Mhm.
that like?
Working with Dr. David Bellin was like a great experience since
Hmm.
he is kind of like he's not kind of he is an expert in like neurology and neuroscience. So like any question you can ask him, he'll have like an answer and like almost immediately.
Mm, mm.
So it was like great working with him and like all the lectures we had, it was so much information that I had so many different ideas to
Yeah,
uh like do my research project on. So
yeah.
my first like my brainstorming was just so many different things of what I wanted to
Yeah.
do. It was really hard for me to narrow it down.
Oh, I know that feeling. I definitely remember doing research and just going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole and going, oh, I'm
Yeah.
going to research this. Oh, I'm going to research this. Oh, I'm going to research this. And it was
Yeah.
really, really difficult to go, no, no, no. I need to decide
Yes.
on what angle I'm going to take. Yeah. How did you find the course in general?
Oh, the course was really amazing. All the people I was with, my other like uh cohorts were also very, very like knowledgeable in
Mm.
neuroscience. So we were all like very like interested in it. No one was really um like slacking off or whatever. Um and the lectures were really interesting to learn like new ideas and knowledge and different experiments about motivation, which was our
Mhm.
key like topic. And our second portion of the entire course, which was the TA sessions, was really fun to ask like different questions or just learn more about a certain topic, which was where I narrowed down my research project.
Yeah. Was there anything in the course, like a lecture or a reading or something that maybe David Bellin said during your mentoring sessions that really impacted your understanding of this field of research?
I think one thing I remember, I don't remember exactly when he said this, but he said that motivation isn't due to one like spot in the brain, or it's not due to like one aspect of like yourself or whatever. It's due to many different things. In our brain, motivation is like, yeah, is caused by uh either like hypothalamus or
Yeah.
the limbic system, depending
Yeah.
on um what exactly is going on within you or what is affecting you.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So, when I used to do my research, I always found it overwhelming, exhausting, daunting, frustrating a lot of the time. Was there anything you wish you had known about what research is like before you started your project?
Um, for me, one thing I wish I would have known is like to like stay on course with my question, because what I used to do is that I would search like different studies and then I would find another cool one, and then like minutes later I would be doing something completely different and not like even in the same region as what my question would be. So
Oh, that's the beauty of academia, though.
Mhm.
I think,
So it was
yeah.
really tough for me to just stay on course.
Oh man, I mean, I can tell you that when I was writing my several dissertations during my undergrad studies, my titles had to change 50 times because I kept changing the angle that I was pursuing. So I totally understand that. But, I find that that's the exciting part about academia is that you're always stumbling across a new article that you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds really interesting. I'm going to read this. Um, yeah. Do you have any advice or tips to students listening to us right now who are thinking, oh my gosh, CCIR sounds incredible. I'd love to apply to it?
I think one piece of advice that I would definitely recommend is ask questions, even if like all the time, either to the professor or the uh, TA, because they're all very knowledgeable in this topic and they could like answer any question you have. And even when you're writing, ask them questions, and even ask them to like review some of your studies, and like so they could help you analyze it better, and it could make your research project a whole lot easier to understand, easier to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you have any other advice for students who might want to embark on a piece of research but are finding it just way too overwhelming to start and they don't know where to begin?
Yeah, so I think my advice would be to like get a clean structure going. For I'm really like I would call myself an organized person, so I can't really do like proper work unless it's like clearly structured out. And I think that really helped me in the long run when I was doing this research project, since I had everything laid out. I just needed to find the actual studies and the research for it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, as someone who's also obsessed with structure, I just could not agree more. It's easy to get lost when you don't
Yes.
have a very obvious structure in place. Well, Niyati, thank you so much for being part of this program and for coming on and talking to us about it. I'm
Okay.
just, I'm just blown away, really, about everything that you've been talking about, and I know I'm going to go away and have a look at JSTOR and
Mhm.
have a look at any articles that I can find on this topic as well. It's been really, really fascinating. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been great.
If you would like to learn more about CCIR and the work they do, please visit www.cambridge-research.org. I'm Jasmine Tien. This has been Niyati Ravi, and thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the CCIR Student Research Spotlight Series. We'll see you next time.